I don't think the look turned out that bad at all according to what I was expecting. So let's begin. So I actually used the L'Oreal primer here. Not very fond of it, but it does smooth out the skin and it makes the product layer on it beautifully. I'm gonna actually giving some of the products that I'm not really fond of a second try. So yeah, I'm actually using the Morphe 35R palette. It has a lot of nice browns. If you're fond of browns and smoky eye, it's a really good palette. The only thing about the old Morphe palettes is that it has a lot of fallout as compared to the newer ones. So, but this is a good palette. It's in everyone's budget, and you know how I'm using the lighter brown here to kind of build up color in my crease. And the good thing about this palette is it makes the shadows blend beautifully and the shadows layer beautifully on top of each other. I'm still using that brown to kind of build up the shade on my crease so that when I layer another color on top of it, it looks really pretty. So then I dip into this darker brown and only focusing it on my crease. You know how beautifully you can see the transition from darker to lighter. So I think I'm going to keep this palette and then I'm going back in the same brush and blending and buffing everything out, and it blends beautifully. Now dipping into this grayish black. With this shade, what I've seen, it does wear off slightly when you do rest of your makeup, so I will build it up. The glitters and the shimmers in this palette are beautifully, however they do require a little bit of build up, but I wasn't going for something too glittery, so I was happy with how it was. The glitters and the shimmers are beautiful for the price. It's an amazing palette. It blends beautifully. If you can see, the blend is amazing. I am then going to go to this Makeup Revolution foundation. Now, I love this foundation for contouring and concealing. However, as a foundation, I just feel that if you go a shade lighter, it does a way better job than when you go for your shade. Now, you'll see throughout the video, I like to use a little bit of oil to blend out stick foundations, just because I feel like stick foundations can stick onto one area, and if you use a little bit of oil to blend them out, they blend brilliantly. Now, as you're seeing me blend, you can see how this is a little light for my shade. The only reason I said I would prefer lighter shades in this foundation is because with time, this foundation does oxidize. So when I use the word oxidize, I mean that with time, it is going to go a little darker in shade. So using a lighter shade of the same foundation to give coverage would at first look really light, but it does turn a little bit more darker and it will initially go to my skin shade. I use F4 and F5, the mixture of those two, but F3 will turn dark on me initially, and you will see that throughout the video yourself. Now I'm going to go to this L'Oreal concealer. And I didn't mention it that I do like this concealer a little bit. It's not a bad concealer, it blends beautifully, but it doesn't give me enough coverage. So again, I have noticed that this is something that I am not going to be reusing or recommend anyone to buy, because clearly it doesn't do enough. Now when I did layer product below my brows is because you know how you saw in the close-up I had those tiny hair. Adding a concealer to it would conceal those tiny hair when you haven't done your brows. On a bad brow day, it's a good tip. So you know how it blends beautifully though, this concealer, I have no doubt about that, but it doesn't do enough. Now I'm going to be using the shade F13 to contour. It's a bit on the orange side, but again, it does kind of go darker, and layering it, this foundation with a good bronzer does such a beautiful job. I love this foundation for contouring. I usually like F14 and F16 for contouring. They're a bit more on the cooler side, but I do like F13 when I'm going for much more of a bronzy look. And with this foundation, the foundation itself blends so beautifully. People who like this foundation swear by this foundation, believe me. But if you have too dry of a skin, I wouldn't really recommend this foundation. It's more for combination to oily skin kind of a foundation. With too dry, it kind of settles in your pore. So I'm using this L'Oreal bronzer. Now a lot of L'Oreal products that I'm going back to. I actually never hated this foundation. This bronzer. I love how cool tone this is. So it just takes out the orange away and it gives you a very contoured and a bronzy effect, and how beautifully it has enhanced my cheekbones. The only thing I didn't like in this duo was the highlighter. The highlighter was very chunky and I hate it. So I will still buy this bronzer again, but just for the bronzer and for the highlighter. The highlighter in this is pathetic. Now I'm going to go to one of my favorites is the Essence blush. The only reason I'm bringing it back is because I stopped using Essence blushes with more blushes coming in my collection. But again, I would repurchase them. They are so affordable. They are beautiful. However, with the newer formulas, I have noticed they are a little hard to blend, if you can see. But for the money, for $3.99 or $4.99 or even $5.99, I think such big of a pan is totally worth your money. I think it's for $3.99 or $4.99. Amazing. Now I just use one of my old brow powders. Now I don't have a brow powder or a pomade which I don't go back to. I usually buy the brow products which I'm really satisfied with. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same brown again and kind of build it below my eye to just give it that smeared out and V effect and give it like much more of a lengthy effect. Now I like the shimmer in this palette. It's beautiful. So if you've seen how the video has gone longer, the foundation has gone a little darker on me. I'm taking this Huda Beauty palette and I'm going to use this in the highlight. Now I don't have anything against this palette. It's a nice palette. I just think it's so overhyped for the price. For the price, it doesn't do enough for me. I have better highlighters in my collection. Like if I would want to recommend spending this much money, I would anyway recommend buying the Anastasia Glow Kits. I have them, I love them, I would repurchase them over and over again. But for this Huda Beauty highlight, I think it's beautiful if you are going for a subtle highlight. I love it. I love how it blends in the skin. I love how it smears in the skin. For the price, if I want to justify the price breakdown, you do get 4 full-size pans, which you would get as individual highlighters, which is pretty good, but I would spend a little bit more and buy the Anastasia Glow Kit. If you like on the face, like shining for the gods type of highlighter, yes. But if you like something subtle, this is beautiful as a highlighter. And yes, again, you do get 4 pans, so you're technically paying a lot at once, but you're not paying too much when you break down the price. I'm using this Shambur Kajal. I do like this Kajal, but I like the other ones a little bit more from their range. Now they have discontinued, so I wanted to go back to this old favorite of mine. And I still think it does a pretty good job. It doesn't smear on me. It doesn't do anything bad on me, so I think I had to go. Now, this is one of the lipsticks which the brand Calabar. A lot of people swear by their lipsticks. I'm personally not a fan of the matte range, and you know how splotchy and blotchy it is in the center. It's not my favorite. I had done a dedicated video on their favorite lipsticks, but this one totally, the matte ones, not all the shades are a hit. You know how this is like really blotchy in the center. I don't like that about this. And now we'll continue with the false eyelashes. I'm going to be adding false lashes to this look, and I'm going to be adding my own brand of eyelashes. Before that, just add a little bit of mascara. Now I do like to do mascara before the lashes. That's just my personal preference. You could do it after. Some people like it way better, like to do mascara after the lashes. That's your personal preference. So I'm going to be using my brand of lashes in the style Fairy Tale. Okay, that was a in the style Fairy Tale. I love the style. It's really fancy, really like delicious. I don't know if that makes sense, but this is a really fancy style. It looks so pretty. I have done separate videos about the packaging of my eyelashes on they're all there on Instagram and Facebook, so you might check them out. I'll leave the links below. And if you want to buy these lashes, then you can leave it down in the comment section or head on to my Instagram and DM there in order to purchase. Anyway, I'll just move on. So I'm using a fresh pair this time. Before my tutorial, I always use the ones I have pre-cut, but I use the ones pre-cut. So I'm going to take the band or them out of the band. Now lashes are always bigger in size for like 90% of the people using them, so you have to cut them. Yeah, so what I personally like to do is twist it out. So the band is pretty thin. It's a pretty flexible band. You don't even need a liner to conceal it. I like to mold it and kind of make it circular according to my eye shape. I always like to leave little space here, otherwise when you blink it kind of disturbs the eye. Here, I'm gonna place it. So you do understand the right left. The shorter part of the eye goes here. There's a different for the right and left, which when you get the packaging you kind of figure it out. I'm gonna bend it till I'm happy with how the bend is. I think that's pretty decent. I'm just gonna help tuck it in right here. So you know, you don't want it to end so far, because when you end the lash so far it kind of gives a very drooly effect to your eye. Instead you want the lashes to give like this effect, like the lifting effect. So I think for me, I'm gonna cut the last part. You never want to cut from the beginning point, otherwise you ruin the shape completely. It's gonna be too big for the front part of your eye and then it look very unflattering. Usually I like using cuticle scissors just because they get really close to the... So here you go. And then I'm just gonna try it one more time and see. You know how this now has created the lifting effect instead of giving me the drooly effect, and I think I'm happy with how it's cut. Just gonna do this a little bit more because this is a fresh pair. Now people who say like lashes ruin after 1 or 2 uses, if you're using good quality lashes, believe me, they start taking your eye shape. The second and the third time it becomes so easier to use them and they look so natural, like they blend really well with your eye shape if you're using like good eyelashes, because they grow on you. This brand of eyelash glue, it's called Duo. You need really little, and I'm really a huge fan of this eyelash brand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a really little. That's okay, that's a lot. You don't even need that much. Now what you want to do is you want to see where your band is. I'm going to use this tweezer. You could use your finger, you could use anything. I have glue. I am only going to apply glue to the band, if you see. So I'm just doing it on the band. You don't want to do it on the lash. You know how I'm just getting on the band. This one dries clear. There's also another one which dries black. If you're not in the hang of using eyelashes, I recommend take the clear one. Otherwise the black goes everywhere. Now it's always important to tuck your lashes from the end points, these 2 end points. So I like to add a little bit more on the end points. So if you put them immediately, they're all like, they won't set on your eye because they'll still have that wetness. So you want to wait for like 10 to 15 seconds. Second it start to like dry, clear on certain places, it's time to place it. Now I'm trying to get as close to my natural eyelash band, my natural lash band as I can. There you go. Drop it down. So I'm gonna leave. You could use anything. You could even use a makeup brush. You know how the band of these lashes is so amazing. You can barely see it. It doesn't look like there's too much, and if you would apply like mascara after, it would even look prettier. So now what I want to do is I want to put some weight on the lashes just to give them a little bit of flatness, and then just press it in with my natural lashes so that you cover the space. Okay, see, this looks gone up a notch. Now see, you know how this glue is already a little tacky, it won't take that long to dry out. See, you know, if you've applied it well, as much as you press, it blends well with your lashes, and oh, they look so pretty. I'm such a big fan of my creativity. Place it in the center. Pull it out. So this is already dried. press it once I'm happy. Just because the lashes are new, I would prefer putting some weight on them just so they lay a little flat in the shape they come in. You know, I'm like bending it a little bit. And then I'm gonna blend it with my... So a trick which I really like to do when you're playing around with new pair of lashes is take like a mascara wand, which is like clean it if it's old. Like I like to keep one mascara wand which I'm only using for me, and it's clean. I clean it and I like to run it over my new pair of lashes. If you like the final look, then give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot if you haven't already. And leave some love down below and go check out my eyelash line. And I would love for you guys to buy it and give it a go, because I'm really 100% confident that once you buy it, you are gonna love it.